Hello everybody. We're going to make some sourdough bread today. I'm David. I'm the head dough puncher at Easy Tiger in Austin. We're going to make a version of our easy sourdough that can be risen overnight and then baked in the morning. I have my flour in here. It's unbleached all-purpose flour. I have 10 grams of salt. I'm going to put it in there. Just blend that together a little bit. Then I have my starter right here. If you maintain your sourdough, you can maintain it for years and years. You can pass it on to your kids and your grandkids. So I took 100 grams of the starter, added 100 grams of flour and 60 grams of water, mixed that up and let that rise at room temperature overnight. And that kind of wakes it up and gets it active again. Now I'm going to weigh out 150 grams of that and put it in here. I'm just going to wet my hands so it's not so sticky. It's pretty close. There we go, 150 grams. So, and then I'm just going to break it into small pieces and put it right on top. Boom, 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 boom. And then I have some water here, about 350 grams of water. And I'm going to pour that in there all together like that. And I'm just going to take one hand and start to blend it all together. Once that water's kind of absorbed in there, I'm going to start squeezing. Squeeze all around. This squeezing the water in there, it's distributing that starter. It's just getting it all together, and that's what our real goal is, just to get everything mixed together. And then I have this handy little plastic dough scraper. I'm just going to scrape down a little bit. This is one of the handiest things in the kitchen for bread making and for lots of other things too. Like if you have a cake and you want to frost your cake, you can even use this as your spatula to frost your cake. Okay, so you can see now it's all pretty much together. I'm not going to sit here and knead this for 10 minutes or anything. I just want it all together. I don't feel spots where the starter is still in big chunks. All the flour is wet with the water. So then I'm going to let this sit and rest for a while. This one you see it's harder to pull apart. That means the gluten has started to form in that resting period. But now we're going to strengthen and develop that gluten a little bit with a fold. So I just want to take the dough. You can just use one hand. You pull it and stretch it up and put it over the top. Rotate your bowl a little bit. You're going to do this about 4 times. Stretch it and fold it over the top. Then I like to take it and just kind of pull it like this into a nice ball, so that I have those seams that I just folded. I have those underneath now. Now, it's not perfectly developed yet, but it's stretchier now. And if you let this sit again for about a half hour, then fold it one more time, you'll be really developing that strength of that gluten. And that's gonna make it airier. I have one that's been fermenting for a while. And you can see it has little bubbles there. It's lighter. It's ready. Now this one is ready for us to shape. And we're going to shape it into a loaf and then let it rise in the refrigerator overnight. So I'm just sprinkle just a tiny bit of flour on the table. With my scraper. I'm going to turn that dough out onto the table. I'm going to do that same kind of stretching and folding. See how this dough is nice and developed now? That web-like, that film that you can pull out, that's your gluten. What that's going to do is it's going to capture all the carbon dioxide that the fermenting yeast and bacteria are giving off. They're giving off carbon dioxide, and that's captured in the gluten. And that's what makes your bread rise and what makes it lighter. So you can just stretch and fold it over the top. Stretch and fold it. Stretch and fold it. This time I do it about 5 times around. You can see it's kind of almost a ball now. And I'm going to roll it over so that those seams that I just made are underneath. And I'm going to cup my hands behind it and I'm going to pull. And you can see the surface starts to stretch. And I just gently pull it and let it stretch by gripping on the table, and I'm turning at the same time just a little bit so that I'm shaping it into a ball. That's all I'm doing. Just pulling it gently. If you tear the surface at all, then you want to do it more gently. But you just want to tighten it up like that. There we go. That's the shaped loaf. Now, to help this rise and keep a nice round shape, we have some fancy proofing baskets with a linen lining that we use for all our doughs when they're rising. You can make a substitute just with a bowl, a nice medium-sized bowl, and I have a piece of parchment paper in there. So now I'm going to just take this, and because I have this parchment in there, I'm going to put it with those seam sides down. And then I'm going to cover it with a tea towel, like this. And I'm going to let this sit out at room temperature for at least about a half hour to an hour. I want the rise to start at room temperature. Then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator overnight, and in the morning it's going to be nicely risen and ready to bake. I have a Dutch oven. You want to put this in your oven ahead of time, about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour before you're ready to bake. Turn your oven on to about 450 degrees and put your Dutch oven in there with the lid. Put that in there and preheat this Dutch oven. Sometimes the loaves can get pretty dark on the bottom, but if you just slip a baking sheet on the rack right underneath, like put this one on the second rung up, it seems to shield that heat from overheating the bottom, and I've had really good luck with that recently. So you're gonna take the hot pot out and then just pick this up. And I don't have one to show you that's fully risen, I'm sorry, but it'll be not quite twice the size, but it will have risen nicely and be nice and airy. And when you see how this springs back real quick right now, when you poke it gently like that, it's gonna spring back but more slowly. And that's when you know that it's fully proofed and ready to go. So then you just take it and carefully put it in there like that. And then you're gonna take a blade and score the top, cut the top in some kind of pattern. Either a simple X is nice, or we often do a diamond shape with 3 lines this way and 3 diagonal like that. Then very carefully put your lid back on and put this back into the 450 degree oven. In 20 minutes, you're gonna take this cover off and then let it bake for another 15 to 20, sometimes 25 minutes until you get it really the nice color that you're looking for. So what's happening here is a Dutch oven like this, and you have the lid, and that captures the moisture from the loaf itself. That allows for a good expansion, a good oven spring for your loaf, where all that carbon dioxide that's trapped in there is expanding with the heat. And it also makes a really nice crust. But after about 20 minutes, you want to make sure you take this off and let that steam escape so you can finish baking the crust. All right, and right here, I have a beautiful baked loaf. Came out of a Dutch oven just like that.